Hi everyone. In today's video, we will know about AWS Code Pipeline. So, what are the benefits? Why we use? What is Code Pipeline? Why we use the Code Pipeline? So, let's move to agenda and see what that. So, in this video, we will learn what is AWS Code Pipeline, why, and what are the benefits and the workflow of the Code Pipeline, the key features, key concepts, limitations, and the use cases, and the similar tools what we are using instead of the AWS Code Pipeline. So let's see one by one. What is AWS Code Pipeline? AWS Code Pipeline is continuous delivery service you can use to model, visualize, and automate the steps required to release your software. You can quickly model and configure the different stage of a software release process. So you can use to model, visualize, and automate the steps required to the software, and also you can configure the different stages of software. And Code Pipeline automates the steps required to release your software changes continuously. With the AWS Code Pipeline, developers can push code changes to a source repository like GitHub, Code Commit, or S3, and the pipeline automatically triggers a series of steps to compile the code, run, test, and deploy it to various AWS services such as EC2 instance, Elastic Beanstalk, or S3 buckets. The next is why we use AWS Code Pipeline. AWS Code Pipeline is used to automate the software release process, making it faster, more reliable, and less prone to human error. And it's enable continuous integration and continuous delivery, allowing development teams to automatically build, test, and deploy the code changes whenever new updates are pushed to a source repository like GitHub, Code Commit, or S3. This automation significantly speed up the release cycle, enabling faster delivery of new features and updates. So why we use? Because it's used to automate the software release process and enables the CI/CD, and we can easily new updates are pushed to source repository and automatically significance the release cycles and fastest delivery. New features are updated. The next is benefits of Code Pipeline. The benefits are no need for server setup, enhanced automation, seamless integration with AWS services, improved version control, multi-environment support, enhanced developer productivity. So let's see one by one. No need for service setup means, so Code Pipeline eliminates the need to set up or provision, enabling developers to focus on delivering high quality code faster without worrying about the infrastructure. So it not need any worry about the infrastructure. It deliver the high quality code, and it's server manually enabling the developers to focus on the delivering the content. So that's why I say no need to server setup. The next is enhanced automation. From build to deploy, Code Pipeline automates every stage of the CI/CD process, allowing teams to avoid repetitive manual tasks and streamline the release cycle. The next is seamless integration with AWS services. Code Pipeline integrates smoothly with AWS services like Code Build and Code Deploy, it making it easier to manage the resources and maintain the security within the single platform. It manage and maintain the security within one platform. The next is improved version control. With the Code Pipeline, rollback capabilities become simply ensuring teams can revert to previous version it quickly in case of bugs or deployment issues. The next is multi-environment support. Deploying to multiple environments at once is easy with Code Pipeline, giving teams flexibility for staging, testing, and also production in one streamlined process. The next is enhanced developer productivity. By removing the infrastructure concern and manual deployment steps, Code Pipeline lets developer focus on writing code and building the innovative features. So in this, it helps infrastructure concerns and manual deployment, and the Code Pipeline developer focus on only writing the code and building the innovative features. So these are all the benefits of AWS Code Pipeline. Let's move to the AWS Code Pipeline workflow, how it works. So the work, let's see the diagram. It first starts with the GitHub repository, and this source repository too, it moves to the source stage. Then in the dev stage, it build and test the process. Then it move to the manual approval. After approving the manually, then start the deploying. After deploying, it end the product. The end user request the new features or report any bugs. Then developer improvement the features. Then start again the GitHub repository. So let's see in this source code here. And the source code changes the triggers. In the source code changes the trigger to AWS Code Pipeline. This source stage starts the pipeline execution by taking the source changes and build the output in the source action. So it build the output in the source action. The pipeline execution transition to the dev stage here. And the first action is in the dev stage is build action. Takes the output from the source action and source stage as input artifact into it. Then pipeline execute the transition to the test here. So after building it, move to the test action. In this stage, taking the input artifact from the build action, then pipeline execute the transition to the next stage, that is manual approval. It says that manual approval action that takes input from the test action in the dev stage. Then if review the approves the execution, pipeline execution will transition to the deploy action. Then it will take input artifact from the deploy in the production environment. If we get rejected, the stages will fall into failed state and the manual approval action will fall to rejected status. So if in case it fails, it fall into the manual approval. Then it goes to the end user and start and report the bugs. The developer need to implement the codes again and then improve the features. Then it goes again with the same step from the source action. So this is how it works from source action code pipeline. So for it starts with the repository, then it goes to the dev stage. In the dev stage, there is a two process. One is build action, another one is test action. In the build action, it takes output from the source action, and this stage has input artifact for it. In this execution transmission to the test, the same stage by taking input from the build action, then transmit to the next stage, that is a manual approval. That takes input artifact from the test action, and then if they review the approves. In this manual approval, it review the approves from the execution. It will transfer to the deploy action. So in this deploy action, it will take input artifact and deploy the production environment. So after approving the manual, it will deploy the production environment. If in case it gets rejected, this stage will this stage will as a failed state. So this is how it works. So then goes to the next slide, that is key features of AWS Code Pipeline. The key features are AWS Code Pipeline is fully managed continuous delivery services that automated release pipelines. It supports continuous integrations and continuous deployment practices. The key features are automations, integrations, cost effectiveness, speed, reliability, scalability. This is the key feature. In the automation, it helps to automate the key changes in the process, and the cost effectiveness means it only charges for only pay per go, and it says speed, and it integration. In the integration, it's integrated with other AWS services such as code build and code deploy. So then let's move to the next slide. Key concepts of AWS Code Pipeline. The main key concepts are source stage, build stage, test stage, and deploy stage. So in this workflow I have already explained. Here we can see this is the source stage, build stage, deploy stage. So in the dev stage, it contains build and test. First it's a source, and then dev, that is contain the build and test. Then it's a prod stage, that is deploy stage. So this is the key concepts. In the source stage, it pulls code from GitHub or AWS Code Commit or any S3 buckets. And then it goes to the build stage. It uses the AWS Code Build, Jenkins, other tools to build the application. In the test stage, runs the automated test on the application. In the last is deploy stage, deploy the application to the services like services like AWS Elastic Beanstalk, ECS or EC2 or S. So this is the concepts. So these are all stages we have already know about in the workflow. This is the main concepts how it works. So the next is limitations. The limitations of AWS code pipelines are limited customization, cost, dependency on AWS services. In the customization means it's compared to the Jenkins, the code pipeline have limited customization. We do not need to customize what we need, so it only supports some of the features. So that's why it's compared to Jenkins, it's only limited customization. The next is cost. So it become expensive with multiple pipelines. So when we compare with multiple pipelines are using many features in the code pipeline, it become more expensive. So that is the limitation. And the next is dependency on AWS services. So it work best with the AWS services. So that's why when we need to run the code pipeline, it uses other AWS services or other tools I have already explained. That is code build, code deploy. So that's why it depends on the AWS services. These are the main limitations. The next is code pipeline use cases. It's a continuous integrations and continuous delivery, multi-environment deployments, automated testing and quality assurance, microservices architecture support, rapid feature development and deployment, rollback and version control. So let's see one by one. Continuous integration and continuous delivery. Code pipeline supports automated build, test and deployment workflows, helping team implemented CI/CD. This is ideal for rapid and frequent software release. So it enhances the speed quality of the product quality delivery. So when we delivering the product, it enhancing the speed and quality, and it frequently releases the softwares. The next is multi-environment deployments. With code pipeline, you can set up pipelines that deploy to multiple environments such as deployment, staging and also production. This is useful for applications that need different environments for testing and quality checks before production deployment. The next is automated testing and quality assurance. Code pipeline integrates with a tool like AWS Code Build and third-party testing services, allowing for automated testing during each phase of the pipeline. This helps catch issues early in the process, it reducing the risk of the errors and reaching the productions. The next is microservice architecture support. Code pipeline is beneficial for deploying microservices, as each microservices can have its own pipeline with dedicated to the build, test and also deploy the steps. This provides flexibility for updating the individual services without impacting any other applications. In this architecture support, it doesn't impact the entire application. It only provides the flexibility for updating individual services. The next is rapid feature development and deployment. Code pipeline allows teams to deploy new feature and fixes quickly without manual intervention. This is very valuable for teams adopting agile methodologies and aiming to provide the frequent features updates. The next is rollback and version control. With code pipeline, you can roll back to previous version if issues arises during the deployment. This makes it easier to maintain the stable and reliable application versions in the production by swiftly reverting to a prior stage. And also in the other use cases, its integration with the third-party tools, like it integrated with the popular developers tools like GitHub, Jenkins and also Bitbucket, it allowing team to use their preferred code repositories and CI/CD tools. So these are all the use cases of the code pipeline. The next is similar tools to AWS Code Pipeline. I've already told that in a previous. So we are using similar tools to the AWS Code Pipeline. They are Jenkins, GitLab CI/CD, Circle CI, Azure DevOps, Bitbucket Pipeline. So these are all the similar tools we can use instead of the AWS Code Pipelines. So this is the theory part of the code pipeline. In this demo, we will see how it works and how to implement this code pipeline and how to use the code pipeline. So let's move to the demo and we will see. Here we will see how to implement the code pipeline. So in the console, we open code pipeline. Yeah, this is the code pipeline. Here we can see the artifacts, builds, deploy, pipeline, the features. So we are already in the previous video, I will show you how to build the code. So this is the static web pages of the code build. So here we will see in the code pipeline how to implement. So first thing what we need to do is we need to create the pipeline. So here we choose the create pipeline from template or build the custom pipeline. There is a two option in the create pipeline is a pre-built template. In the build custom pipeline is from the scratch to meet the specific needs. So I'm using the build custom pipeline. Click on next. The next is choose the pipeline setting. So enter the pipeline name. So here I'm giving a code pipeline demo. The next is the execution mode. So there to execution mode of the pipeline is to determine the three ways. One is a superseded and the queued and the parallel. So superseded is a more recent execution can overtake on the older one, and this is the default one. And the queued is a execution are processed one by one in order that they are called as secured. In the parallel means execution don't wait for other runs to complete, so before starting or finishing. So that's why I'm using the parallel execution mode. The next is service role. So here if you want you can create a new service role, otherwise you can use the existing service role. So here I'm using the existing new service role. So it's allow the AWS code pipeline to create the service role. The next, there is no need to change. So click on the next. So the next is a source provider. Uh, there is where you store your input artifacts for your pipeline. Choose the provider and then provide the connection details. So I'm using the GitHub via Hot app. So then it's asking for connect to the GitHub. Click on connect to GitHub. So click on the authorize AWS code suite. So it's asking for your GitHub password. So click on the confirm. Yeah, here we can see you have successfully authenticated your accounts. It's connected. So the next thing is it's asking for your repository. So I'm using the Sahana HP cloud build demo. This is the repository I've used. So I will show you. Here we can see code build demo. So this one we are using. So go to the pipeline. Yeah, code build demo. The next is asking for branch. So branch I'm using as main. And the next is change the detection option. To choose the detection mode to automatically start your pipeline when the changes occur in the source code, there is a two. One is a GitHub webhooks. It's automatically start the pipeline when the changes occur. The another one is AWS code pipeline. So use the AWS code pipeline to check periodically for the changes. So I'm using the GitHub webhooks. Then click on the next. So the next is a build stage. Here there is a two option. One is the command and other build provider. So here I am using the other build provider because I've already built the code. So here we can see. Sorry. Here we can see I've already built the project. Yeah. This is the build project. That's why I'm using code build. So here we need to use the AWS code build because I'm using the build provider. So click on the code build. Here you need to enter the project name or create a project. So I've already created the project, that is code build demo. So give the project name code build demo. Then so it says single build and it's choose the reason. There is no need to change anything. Click on the next. So and the next stage is test stage. In the test provider, how you want to test your application or content, choose the provider and then provide the configuration details. So here we need to provide the configuration detail for the provider. So here I'm selecting the developer. So there is an option for AWS code build, AWS device form and add Jenkins. There is an option. So here it's optional for test. You can choose the code build or anything. Otherwise you can skip. So I'm skip for test stage and go to next. So the next is deploy provider. So deploy provider, you want to deploy your application or content. Choose the provider and then provide the configuration details. So here I'm choosing the Amazon S3 because here we can see, I will show you. So here we can see I've already created the bucket, the name as demo web app code 1. So here it contains the details of the Git repository. So I'm using the S3 bucket. So it's a build artifact. Here it's asking for the bucket name. So demo web app code 1. The next thing is asking for the S3 object key. So enter the object key. You can include the file path without the character at the beginning, include the file extension. So I'm not giving any objects key, that's why I'm extract the file before deploy and then click on the next. So this is the review stage. We can review, we need to change anything or it's correct. So I will give the pipeline name, type, execution mode, artifact, and the next is source stage, GitHub, and the repository name, owner, branch, and the next is build stage, and the next is deploy stage. So all the things are correct. Then click on the create pipeline. So here we can see pipeline is created in the execution mode of the parallel. So the next thing is go to the S3 bucket. So here refresh this. So here we can see the code pipeline bucket is also created. So this is how the code, when we create the pipeline, so we are using the bucket. So it's created, the bucket is automatically, is in the name of code pipeline. The next thing what we need to do is, so go to the GitHub repository. So here we can see, so copy code. Here you go to your code demo main. So go to index.html. So here, so I will show you my static web page. Here we can see this is static web page I am using. So in the GitHub repository using the index.html, so we can edit this. So click on the edit button. So here we will see what thing we need to edit. Okay. So color is blue, right? So we can change the color to blue to red, and low is in H3. So we will change to the H2. So and also I will change I will change the color and red. So then commit the changes. So click on commit change. Yeah, it's updated. Then we go to the static web page and refresh this. It will change or not, we will see. Before going to static web page, we go to the code pipeline and let's check any changes are done. So the here it's the code build. Go to the code pipeline and go to this pipeline. Yeah, go to pipelines. Yeah. So go inside this. So here we can see it will already it succeed. So here we can see 30 seconds ago, 39 seconds ago the changes. So here we can see updated the index.html. So go inside this. So here we can see, so the build will success. So when we change anything in the GitHub repository using the code pipeline, so in the pipeline it automatically started the process, and it also it started the build process and deploying the code. So then come to this. So here we can go inside this. So we can see, so the source is completed, build is also completed, deploy is also completed. So when we change anything in the code repository, so in the code pipeline it automatically start the process, and it will in the progress and the build automatically. So the next thing is, go to the my static web page and check it will change or anything. So let's go to the my static web page. So refresh this. So here we can see the color will change to the blue color is changed to the red, and here the H2. So let's go and check. Here we can see, so the color will changes to the red. So yeah, the color will change to red and the header is changed to the 2. So this is how we need to update it, the index.html page. So it's automatically changes in the code pipeline also. So this is how the changes are work. The next thing is we can also change for index.html, and also we change for style.css. Yeah, we'll style.css. Okay, it's an app.js, right? So code for style.css. So here also we can change the color and the padding, background color, so text alignment. So whatever we want we can change this, and just go to the my static web page and just refresh this page. It will changes. And also in the code pipeline, yeah, in the code pipeline it started the triggered directly to the code pipeline, and it started this process. So yeah, the process first it's started with the source, then build, then the deploy. This is how the code pipeline is work. So this is in this video all about the code pipeline. So thank you.